Okay, voice reveal in 3, 2... Never mind. Recently, I did a poll and 100% of y'all agreed that I should make this video. Most of y'all believe that I should make this video, so without further delay, here it is. Starting off, the most controversial option I've ever chosen, and by far the low point of my decision skills, is Sonic the Hedgehog as Odysseus. All jokes aside, personally, I believe this is the best choice for Odysseus when casting Sonic characters in the Odyssey. I've not seen any backlash against this character. Closest thing to that would be in the animatic Odysseus, people wanted Shadow the Hedgehog against gun soldiers, but since this is the entire Epic the Musical, it makes sense to have Sonic throughout the entire Epic Musical than just one animatic having it be Shadow. Sonic is the main character of his franchise, Odysseus is the main character of the Odyssey, so these choices just made sense. The next few choices are probably the ones with the most controversy though, is Amy as Athena and Blaze the Cat as Penelope. Now there are two, maybe even possibly three people who like Blaze as Penelope. The rest of y'all, I'm pretty sure, believe that Penelope should be Amy instead and Blaze should go to the role of Athena. To that, I say I 100% understand your thoughts and reasoning on this. I have old concept art of Blaze portraying Athena and Amy portraying Penelope. I even went as far as to storyboard some animatics with Blaze taking that role. In this particular storyboard animatic, Monster, Blaze the Cat appeared as Athena as more of like a ghostly form that Sonic is recalling in the I Lost My Mentor section. She also appeared in a title screen to the right hand of Sonic, and even made it to like a final render version of an official cover. Now, the two viewers that are watching this unsubscribing because of that, just let me explain why this whole thing shifted. One of my favorite versions of Athena is Gigi's version, the one I use in my profile picture. So I really wanted my Athena to be wearing that helmet. The only problem was, when making Blaze wear the helmet, it didn't work, as you can see on the left. But the one on the right is supposed to be Amy, and it kind of matched the curvature of her hair. So that was the reason why I started considering Blaze for Penelope instead of her original role of Athena, and made this render of Amy. Another thing was, Blaze is a royalty, Penelope is royalty. I'm only seeing a similarity here as it is me. But to be serious, the fact that they are both royalty did play a part, somewhat. Blaze also being my second favorite Sonic character did help her land that role as well. But what I'd say played the main reason in her getting that role was, bear with me here, I had to write a research paper on Penelope and how she was able to stay loyal to her husband Odysseus for all those years and resist all those suitors and not choose a new husband. So basically I was talking about how she stayed strong and that she did not give into any temptation or anything throughout the entire book. I feel like Blaze really represented that sort of strength that I was going for, as well as that just moral character, leading these to be the reasons for Blaze as Penelope. This leads us to the next character, which I've gone over a little bit, Amy as Athena. I've already mentioned how originally Amy was going to be Penelope, and there's some concept art for that. I started actually working on like her character design and everything around God Games, because before that she only appeared in one other animatic, but it was just a YouTube short. As far as concept art goes, I don't have a lot of her being Penelope. There's this one title poster, which you've already seen, but she's like in the very, very background. And there was another one where she portrayed a siren, so not really Penelope, but technically Penelope, for some sort of cover art that I was working on for Epic the Musical about Sonic. A big reason to make her Athena was sort of just to break her out of the mold of just being Sonic's love interest automatically, because I'm pretty sure that's the role that people instantly give her. Not there's anything wrong with that, it's fine. I just sort of wanted this to be a little bit different than all that. I like the friendship that Odysseus has between Athena, especially like in the young Odysseus and Athena, and that was really nice to do with Sonic and Amy. It also brought out more of like a warrior side that I don't think Amy would have been able to express as Penelope. No hate to Penelope, of course, she's awesome, but Athena's awesome too. So to summarize, the helmet matching perfectly, the whole relationship between Sonic and the mentor sort of thing, and it broke her out of like the most likely casting role she would have had. Next up is Eurylochus, played as Shadow. I'm not gonna do too much of a deep dive with this one because I haven't seen any complaints for this character. If there are complaints, I've been completely unaware to them. But really, it's just a nice sort of friendship dynamic between Sonic and Shadow, and Odysseus and Eurylochus was really nice to work on, and I really look forward to doing the mutiny fight scene. Be on the lookout for that. I'm really excited to get working on that. Next up is Polities, who I think is pretty much a given, sort of like that immediately cast this character in this role. Sonic and Tails are best friends, Polities and Odysseus are best friends. It just makes sense because you can sort of imagine that they've already had a long friendship since you associate these two characters with having friends. Also, the voice just reminds me of Tails. Now, for Wave, this is by far my favorite casting that I've done for this musical. I really like how fast the character moves from screen to screen. If you've seen Gigi's animatic, it's really cool how bouncy and fluid the animation is. So I really wanted to make her move across the screen a lot more than any of the other characters in my animatics. I know Wave is a very fast character on her extreme gear, which I could use as a cloud instead as the substitute, but I have never drawn her before, so I did have to look at a lot of references when making all these things, because this is my first attempt at actually drawing her, and it's an animation on top of that, so it was a nice little challenge for me to give myself. Making the beak move in addition to that was a really nice challenge instead of just the standard mouth moving that all the other characters have. 600 Strike was my first epic animatic, and I had no idea I was going to do the entire musical someday, but I'm getting there. So I needed someone to cast as Poseidon. Immediately I thought Chaos because he's a water monster, so it kind of made sense. It also made great for in 600 Strike, instead of Poseidon's big god mode, instead he turned into perfect Chaos, which was really cool and really fun to animate during that segment. Of course, Chaos is pretty much all about water. I don't know if you know that much about Poseidon, but he's also really big on water. It's sort of his thing a little bit, I guess you could say. So it just made sense for a water monster like Chaos to be casted as Poseidon, and they're also arch rivals, Sonic and Chaos. So that's my reasoning behind that character. Again, I think this is a pretty simple choice. Surge was another challenge for me that I could, challenge myself with, because I've never actually drawn Surge before I actually made this animatic, or except in the monster animatic where she's shown for a few seconds. So it was a nice little challenge for me. I kid you not, one of the reasons was because Circe and Surge kind of sounded similar. She's also a really cool looking character, and the electricity power she has sort of reminded me of that magic thing. And when I was first listening to the musical, I always just imagined her as Circe, because that's just my brain works, I guess. Probably the most baffling choice I think y'all struggle with, and home of the least performing epic animatics of all time that I have. We have Bugs Bunny as Hermes, where it's sort of divided, I guess. I know at least one person likes the idea. Again, whenever I listen to these musicals, I try to match the characters with what's happening, and I couldn't think of a single Sonic character, so I just branched out and thought, hey, what about Bugs Bunny? He's a really nice, charismatic character that I really think represented Troy, the voice actor for Hermes, really well. There's even an Easter egg in Dangerous where he does those little tunnels that Bugs Bunny always does. And the laugh that Hermes does also reminds me of the iconic laugh that Bugs Bunny also has. I guess I can see why y'all kind of not like this or be confused, because he's not a Sonic character and he's an Epic the Musical but Sonic. I really like Bugs Bunny. He's a really fun character to draw and pretty much a challenge to have. I really like making it to where I can have him moonwalk during some of the animatics, and even in the recent Wouldn't You Like animatic, he did the Fortnite default dance. And he's a really iconic, fun character and very quick moving, kind of like Hermes. So I figured, hey, this matches pretty well. I think we can agree on one thing, though. I'm the only one who thinks that Metal Sonic works well casted as the Prophet. In original concept art, I had Silver as the Prophet, but I wanted Silver to be Zeus, which I'll go over later in the video. So I was struggling to figure out who should the Prophet be, and I knew I wanted Sonic to attack the Prophet because he was so angry that he was prophesying something that Odysseus wasn't pleased with. So I thought of a rival that I could put for Sonic. Metal Sonic is one of his most iconic rivals, so after Sonic attacks Metal Sonic, because the Prophet is more of a mythological figure, I could use that iconic scene of them fighting each other, which of course the Prophet wins because he's one of the supernatural force in the Odyssey. And finally, I wanted the character to sort of fall apart, like a mental breakdown, because the Prophet sees what Odysseus is going to do, which you can't really do with an actual character because you can't have their limbs falling apart and everything, but with the robot you can have that happening, which is really cool because the Prophet can't even handle what Odysseus is doing, so he just falls apart due to anxiety or something like that. Another cool thing was that the red eyes that represent ruthlessness could read air, which is pretty cool. So those are the reasons why I have him as Metal Sonic. Originally, Big was going to be Zeus, and I even went as far as to putting him in an animatic, but I stopped because the animatic was poorly done, and I'll show in a few seconds, and you'll just see why I switched the
Is she dead?
The creator of Epic the Musical, Jorge Rivera Arons, talked about Zeus having a rage mode, which I felt like a super version of a character would do really well. And Shadow and Sonic were already cast, so I decided to put Silver, which is nice because he actually has an important role for once. It's pretty cool. And Super Silver just best represented that like rage mode Zeus that I was going for. To summarize, Super Silver equals cool rage mode Zeus, and I just think it's cool. There wasn't a lot of thought, I'll admit, into the other gods and god games, so I'll go over them super quickly. Apollo was chosen because his yellow skin color reminded me of the sun. Festus was honestly just a random character I chose because Vector is a Sonic character. Rouge was inspired by her Valentine's Day skin. Infinite just looks like a warrior character, and this is like a more ancient character. Okay, and next up we have Cream as Calypso. First off, let me state that the person on the left you see on the screen is Calypso. Yes, it is based on the design of Cream, but ultimately it is Calypso. I just want to make that very clear while I explain the reasoning behind this character. This one I've seen some people, it seems like they don't really like the casting choice of Cream as Calypso based on this comment. I can't fully understand if it means you don't like it or you're just questioning it. But I got the idea after watching this video released by the creator of Epic Musical, Jorge Rivera Arons.
Calypso in Epic is basically a child in an adult's body. And this makes her very fun to watch because she acts so differently from some of the other characters that Odysseus has encountered. For example, Circe. Circe is more composed and calculating, and she's able to adjust the way she acts in order to puppeteer others. Calypso has a lot more of a childlike playfulness to her, and for good reason. Like when Odysseus washes up on the beach and then wakes up later, Calypso is just like looming over him while he sleeps, like.
So Cream basically had that sort of like childlike vibe that Jorge Rivera Arons described as Calypso, which is the reason why I cast her as Calypso in the first place. Next up is Antinous, played by Knuckles. I haven't seen any controversy to this yet, but again, he shows up for a little bit in the challenge. I did this because Sonic and Knuckles were rivals to begin with, so it's a nice dynamic because Antinous and Odysseus are kind of rivals, but he gets killed super quickly, and the voice kind of matches in my opinion. Every other character is going to be an OC or just the original character state that they already had. Tribus, for example, and I don't know if I butchered their pronunciation or not, is already played by itself. It's just the giant worm. I know the Cyclops is just going to be a Cyclops as well. Telemachus, I'm working on a redesign and an Odysseus remaster instead to fix that sort of design because it looked a little bit not as polished and everything, but it's really just going to be a cross between Sonic and Blaze. A lot of the suitors are OCs, but I might change them in the Odysseus animatic just for the sake of adding other Sonic characters who couldn't make it. And Scylla is also going to be an OC because I couldn't find another role to fit her perfectly. There's also been a little bit of an update to the channel. I think a week ago I posted another update, but this curve like ignores all of what I said there. Animatics are now just going to be releasing once they're finished. That way I can get them out faster and I'm not waiting for another week to go by to release the next one and next one and next one. I believe that is it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. It means a lot. This video is really just made so that way I can show you the reasoning behind each character and why I casted them. Y'all are obviously still entitled to your own opinions if you don't like mine. And once again, thanks for watching.